So now that you have your 5 photos picked, it's time to start editing and turning these into black and white. So let's get to it. All right, so first off, well, I'm actually going to change photos because I want to show you guys kind of my thought process when I'm editing. So I'm going to switch over to this one. And one of the first things that I like to look at is actually up here, the histogram. Now the histogram is a graphical representation of all of the tones and the colors that are in your image. So this is broken down by RGB channels. That's red, R, G, green, and B is blue. And you can see that we have kind of the similar shape going across all 3 of these. Now what's going on here is actually when I go ahead and change the white balance, you're going to see that all of these kind of move together. And that's kind of a sign of a better white balance anyway. So I'm going to click my white balance clicker here and click right here. And you can see that all of these kind of move together a little bit more. And so now what we're having, you can see that it was kind of let's go back a bit, more of a warm color to it. And once I use my white balance clicker on this neutral area down here, which is some concrete, it turned it to a very much cooler feeling. Now this is the correct white balance, but again, this is up to you as well. When it comes to skin tones, white balance is really, really important. When it comes to commercial photography, where you have very specific products that you're photographing, white balance is really important. But in some of the other types of photography, you have a little bit more leeway. So this is really going to be up to me. Now, I'm going to actually be turning this in black and white, so I don't know how important that really is to me right now, but I did want to just point it out to you. So here I have, again, my histogram, and what this is telling me right now is that I have a lot of tonalities in the mid-range area. I have a little bit in the darks, but not really. It kind of ends right here. I don't have hardly any tonality in my light areas. Now this is kind of expected. There's not anything in here that's really white or bright, so there's not going to be very much here. The same with the blacks. There's just not a whole lot of super dark areas. But I can still change this up to add more of a contrast and more of a wider tonality, which in general looks pretty good with photos. So if I come down here to my whites and my blacks, if I take this white slider, it's actually going to take this area and pull it over this way. So let's go ahead and do this here. And you can see it's pulling it over and making those areas brighter. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now let's do the same with blacks. I don't have to go nearly as far with this. And actually I'm going to turn on, so right up here we have our clipping indicators. The clipping indicators let us know if we're getting an area that's so black that it's completely black, or if we're getting an area that's so light that it's completely white. So if I click on here and click on here, nothing is popping up because my tonality is still within the range. But let's say I took my blacks, and I'm just going to keep pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. And now you can see these areas on my image that are turning blue. Those are all areas that have turned completely black in the image. And this doesn't look that great anyways, at least in my opinion. So I'm just going to go ahead and back this off. And you can see that, you know, the tonalities on the graph have been completely pushed to the side. So let's back this off a bit. Okay. So now I have a full range of tones, but I don't have any areas that are clipping. So I have my highlights clipped on also. Let me just show you what it would look like. So if I kept going, so now this area down here is completely white. And if I turn off the clipping indicator, you can see that this is true. This is definitely not what we want. So let's go ahead and back this back off. I'm happy with it about there. Alright, looking good. So one thing that's I'm seeing is I think that this is slightly crooked. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that real quick. And so what I usually do, let's see, let's pull this. Okay. So what I usually do is I kind of start from up here and work my way down. So now I've gone ahead and done my cropping. That's looking pretty good. I'm not really worried about the edges. I think this is all fine. We could go with a square crop if we wanted. I think that would actually look pretty good because that area of writing is smaller. Yeah, I think I am going to go with that. And this is up to you. I don't have any specific cropping guidelines for you for this project. And, you know, if something is a little bit, you know, if there's something that's distracting on a side and you want to kind of crop it out a little bit, that's fine with me. I'm not tripping on that. So let's go ahead and leave that there. I'm going to hit return to keep this. Another thing you can do is if instead of hitting return, you can also just click here. And actually, let me show you something else that's pretty cool for if you were trying to fix, you know, the crookedness on this. I did this by eye, by just, you know, kind of turning this and looking at the grid line that popped up there and matching it up with this dark line. You can also take this slider and slide it around however you wish. And I'm looking at that dark line again. There we go. Another way you can do this is, let me go ahead and just make this really wonky for a second. This little ruler right here, if you click on it once, you see we have this little ruler tool that comes up. Now all I have to do is click on one side of an area I know should be straight and then click on the other and it'll automatically fix it for me. This is great for like horizons, like ocean photos where it's just barely off kilter a little bit. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to click once. Whoops. I'm going to click once and drag, I should say. I'm going to click once and then drag it across this line. This is the line I know should be straight in my photo. So now Lightroom went ahead and switched it up for me. I'm going to go ahead and take a couple steps back here. Alright, that's where I want to be. So now I can go ahead and hit return or click on this again and that'll keep my crop. Sweet! So next thing you want to do, now you can play with all of this stuff now, but we're going to be switching these to black and white, so let's go ahead and do that. Right up here where it says basic, we have color and black and white. And I also want to show you guys that right down here we have a panel called HSL color. Now when I go ahead and click on the black and white, this turns black and white, and this HSL color now turns into a black and white panel. So this is pretty sweet. Now I can take whatever colors there are and affect how bright or dark they're coming in. We're affecting the luminance. So by red areas, I can make them dark, I can make them light, totally up to me. This is going to be more orangey, so I can really decide on the look I want. I think I want to go a little bit more on the darker side because I want all the attention to come back down here. That's the point of my leading lines pointing down there, is to merely bring the attention down here, right? So, and you know, something to know is that like I can play here with this green slider and it's only going to affect the green. There's a couple little green leaves in there, but if there's nothing green in here, nothing's going to change. So if you start moving these sliders around and you're like, why isn't anything happening? You just don't have that color in there. And if you forget what colors you had in your photo, you can hit the backslash button and it'll show you a before. So here I know I basically just have oranges and some yellows really in here, and that's all that's really going to help me there. Now from here you can go ahead and play with all this other stuff. You want to add a little bit more texture, maybe a little bit more clarity. Let's see, what do I like? I kind of like that soft look. No, I think I'd stick with the clarity there. If you want to play with any of the tools you learned with this last week, you totally can. So let's say I want to make this even darker. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag and pull this down. Maybe pull it up this here. And I'm going to take my exposure down here. And maybe not that much, just a little bit. Alright, that looks okay. Let me see, I'll pull it up a little bit more. I want more of a fade. Alright, and maybe I want to pull up another one down here. Okay, and let's go darker. Just a little bit of darkness just to pull our viewers right up to those words. Then I think I'm going to go ahead and, oops, let me go to my adjustment brush. I'm going to use my bracket keys to make the brush smaller, and I'm going to come over this. Now this is so my cursor looks so big because it's changed under the accessibility menu, just so you guys can see it. It kind of throws me off though, because then it's not showing me the exact size I'm actually brushing in, but that's fine. Okay, so I want to go ahead and reset the exposure. I don't want to change the exposure. I really just wanted to see what it would look like if I added a bit more contrast. So I want to make the letters stand out a bit more. Let's see, maybe take my blacks down a little bit. Alright. Alright. That's looking nice. And I think the last step I want to bring to mind, and this is a personal thing, I always add a little bit of a vignette to pretty much all my photos. But I'd like to do it just enough to pull you into the center of the image, not enough to make it obvious. And what I mean by obvious is like, let me turn this off for a second, is like that. That's just not my style. That might be your style, I don't know. But I prefer to kind of keep it a little more natural looking, just enough to darken it just a little bit to bring us into there, but not so much to make it, you know, really super noticeable that there's a vignette. Okay, so now that I've played with that one a bit, I want to actually go back to this image because I want to show you the black and white mixer a little bit more with something with more colors. So this image, if I hit backslash, we can go ahead and see. Hi. There we go. Wait, there we go. All the colors that were originally in this image. And so I'm going to go to the black and white mixer here, and over here I'm just going to turn this. There's the reds going all the way dark and all the way light. You can create a completely different looking image with just playing with the black and white mixer here. So there's the oranges. Wow, love it. The yellows, greens. Yeah, so you can see that just playing with these different sliders, you can really make decisions on what it's actually going to look like in the long run. This is especially helpful with flowers, I would say also, because a lot of times the tonality, like we see the color of flowers and the tonality with the leaves is about the same, kind of like this medium tone, especially like you say red roses on green, they pop out, but in black and white they don't. They kind of just fall into each other. So this is a great time where you could really change it up and make things pop how you want them to pop. Alright guys, let me go all the way back to where I was before. I think that's where I liked it. Yeah. Okay, so that's how to edit your photos in black and white. It's a pretty quick and easy process. I mean, still take some time with it, play with the different settings. I'm expecting you guys to come up with some really great photos for this assignment. So yeah, make sure you put in that time and effort to make your photos really shine.